Good evening, everyone. We're here for another episode of Real Chill Conversations. Not sure what's going on with my setup here. I'm trying to add my co host, Dominique, but I'm having some technical difficulties. Dominique, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Can you hear
Okay.
me?
Yeah, I
Hey,
can hear you.
everyone.
I can hear you just fine. Sorry that we're not able to see you. We got to troubleshoot the scenario and the setup and figure out what exactly is going on here because I do not know. I don't think I've done anything different, but who knows? Technology is definitely a thing. But tonight's episode, I thought we would kind of lighten it up a little bit and discuss ask each other some questions so that our viewers can get to know us a little bit better, things that we may not have necessarily talked about in the podcast, but things that are about us that people might want to know and have an interest in knowing and understanding. So, our last couple of topics have been kind of on the heavy side and I just figured we'd take a little break and we'd lighten the load. So we're gonna ask each other some questions today. Are you ready?
Yes, that sounds like a good idea.
All right, I'm gonna start off simple and then I'm gonna escalate the questions, as we move on. I'm gonna ask you two questions. You'll give me answers, and then it'll be your turn to ask me two questions and give me answers. And me give you answers, and then we'll continue on from there until we reach the end of our question scenario. So my first question to you is, what was your reason for wanting to create this podcast to have as a platform to communicate with others?
I've been doing podcasts for quite a while. Um, the reason about Real Chill Conversations coming up is because I was actually talking to a friend, and I was like, I had a podcast, going on. Well,
Hmm.
it was not my podcast, but it was someone else's. And I was usually on there. Um, and she just started talking about it. She was like, "Oh, well, why don't you, do something like that for us? And, we can get other girls to join in, and it'd be a great idea. We sit on the phone and we talk. We talk so much and we talk away. So that would be a great idea, to have a platform like that." And then I just thought about it and I really sat on it and I was like, you know what? And that was not the only person who actually asked me. You asked me to do, I remember you said, hey, why don't we do like a chill and conversations while we doing our makeup? And I remember you saying that. And I was like, you know what? I said, I think I have the perfect women for this because all of you had actually mentioned something about it. And I think it was only Natalie that well, she was already doing podcasts with someone else and we brought her in. Um, but yeah, that's how we came up with the idea, and we thought it would be a great platform to actually sit here and not only give our own opinions, but we are different. We're so different, but the same at the same time.
Right.
So it was like, okay, I said, well, let's get this going. And we were all excited. And yeah, it was actually, how many of us? It's actually five of us.
Five, yeah,
And
five,
then
and then
different
down to
now.
four, and then down to three, and then down to just you and I.
Exactly.
The
But then,
last one standing.
yes. And no, it doesn't, um, the possibility of us bringing s- other people in, that is still on the table for me.
Yeah.
I don't know about you, but
Yeah.
I'm definitely um I would like that. It's really hard to work with more than one person yourself.
Yeah.
And that's only because everybody have different schedules. Everybody was doing something. If it
Right.
wasn't working, they had their own business, or they had Natalie, she had her music reviews and stuff like that. So everybody pretty much has something that they were doing. So it's really hard to keep up with everybody's schedule. But I believe we can still do this,
Yeah. I I
and
I
we can
agree.
still find the right people too. If they would like to join, let us know.
Absolutely. All right. So, question number two for you is, do you have a favorite guest that we've had on the podcast? Someone that has just really just hit the ball out of the park, was really an effective contributor to the podcast, offered a lot of information and a lot of insight. Do you have a favorite guest, or is every guest sort of your favorite in their own way by what they contribute when they join us on the podcast?
Every guest that we've had actually brought something very, very valuable to the podcast. So I'm very grateful of every person that has joined us because they all had gems.
Yep.
From the moment of when we did, former police officer from,
Yeah.
you know, to Miss Donna, like all of them have been very great and offered some really deep stories. I'm gonna say that, and also everybody, most people that we bring to the podcast are people that are building. So
Mm-hmm.
whether you're building your business, and I love those, I really do love those because I feel like you get to put your business out there. You get to put whatever you're doing out there on a platform. We learn from you. So it's like beneficial on both ends.
Right. I would agree with that. I think that, every single person that we've had on the podcast, and there's been very, various people from different aspects, to different walks of life, to different professions, to different passions that they're pursuing. But getting to have a, conversation with them and really grasp the understanding of what it is that they're doing and how they're contributing to our society, I think has really opened my eyes to the fact that there are so many people out here that are doing great things and are contributing. And we need to shine a little bit of a spotlight on them to help them get more awareness, towards their cause. So, yes, I absolutely agree with that. And now it is your turn to flip the tables and ask me a couple of questions.
Ring, ring, ring. Okay, so I want to start off with my first question that I would like to ask you. What would you say to someone who's on the fence about starting a new podcast?
Well, first of all, someone that's on the fence with starting a new podcast, like like yourself, I also have a background in podcasting. I actually started the podcast initiative when I was working in radio, and I said we need to have a podcast beyond the radio show. We need to have a podcast because we need to have people have a way to listen to what it is that we're talking about, what topics that we're talking about, after the radio show has gone off the air and there's no way to replay it, at least having a podcast that appears on Apple and Spotify and iHeart and all those different platforms, we need to have a way for them to do that. I think you need to determine, what what your concept is going to be, what it is that you're going to talk about. Are you spitting information? Are you providing information in details? Are you offering assistance with people that need help and need direction? Are you just kind of speaking, in terms of how we need to navigate, through this life cycle? I think you need to identify what your target audience is and who you're trying to attract to listen to your podcast, and figure out, once you've identified that, how you go about making that grow. Whether it's, appearing at shows, whether it's, going out and participating in the community, whether it's, maybe setting up some type of, venue, at a nightclub or a spot, and, doing your podcast live. I mean, there's various different ways for you to do that, but I encourage anyone that has an interest in doing a podcast to be able to do it, because it doesn't, unlike radio, podcasting doesn't require you to have such and such skills. You don't necessarily need to break for commercial. You don't necessarily have to do those things that you do on radio. You can just get on and you can speak. You can have your guests. You can have questions and answers. You can have people, reaching out, with questions. You can have people calling in. So I definitely think that a podcast is a great idea. And if it's something that you're interested in, then absolutely go for it. Go for it.
And I do want to say that so many people, that I see on Facebook, I want to say Facebook because that's like the platform where we can actually interact so all day if
Yeah.
possible. um, I see a lot of people like writing really good questions, like
Yep.
engaging with their their feed. And
Yeah.
I believe that some of them really need their podcast. And I heard someone mention it, you know, on my feed, and I was like, hey, I told you to come on our podcast, but yeah, you need your own podcast because really some of y'all have the best questions, and it's like you can really like make it a whole conversation.
Right.
um, the
Absolutely.
potential is incredible. And I'm so
Hmm.
surprised that the people that I see, haven't started to do their own podcast yet.
Yeah, it is. But I think that comes from, a state of fear. I think people are just slightly afraid as to how their podcast will be received. And, are they going to do numbers? Are they going to get listeners? Are they going to be able to get guests? Absolutely. If you have a platform and you have opened that platform up for people to be able to speak, for people to be able to be guests and to join and tell their story or talk about their cause, you will get people that will join. You will get viewers. You will get views. And your podcast will become well known. So don't let fear stop you from doing it, because
Absolutely.
as you said, Facebook is a very, very broad platform, and people are already semi podcasting, on Facebook when they go on their rants and their tangents, and they talk about different things and ask questions, and people engage in that, and discuss it. So just take it to a podcast platform and you'll
And
be good to go.
listen, June
Yeah.
26th, 2021, that's when we first launched the Real Chill Conversations
Yes.
first video.
Yep.
And it's, I felt, me coming from a podcast background, that I was on other people podcasts. So I was getting them, people will be there looking at me or, just wanting to interact, um, listening to me.
Hmm.
Um, However, before that, before I even got to podcast, period, before Real Chill Conversations, way before the other podcasts, I was shy as could be. I was so for people to see me now and to actually see me doing a podcast or even my little TikTok fun videos that I post,
Right.
it's just like, is this Dominique? Like, wow, like because I was very much shy. Um, but I did open up to the people that I felt, comfortable with and stuff like that. So with them, I was very talkative, but everybody else, I was like pretty shy. So it was a shocking experience to a lot of people. And then for me, it was a learning experience because I did want to do podcasts. So I knew I had to get out there. I knew that I was going to get nervous. I was going to be afraid to say certain things. I knew all of that. But as time goes by, you definitely start getting more comfortable and you'll beat it. So don't be afraid.
Well, I'm going to say this, and I don't know if this is going to surprise you or not, but I don't know if the fact that, I've known you for so many years, and know your personality and how you react to certain things and your passion for things that you care about or things that mean something to you. I never really took your initiative with the podcast in the first, several episodes and things like that. I never got the shyness from you. I got a very confident Dominique that did her research and knew what it was that she wanted to say and knew what it was that she wanted to convey. So if you felt shy on the inside, that
I
didn't
did.
that didn't come through on the outside at all. I'm going to tell you that right now. It never came through on the outside. So, I think that's a testament to your ability and your desire to want to be in the podcast world, being that you had been on previous podcasts and then making the decision of like, hey, let's start our own podcast, let's get our own thing going. So I never got shyness from you. I never got nervousness. I never got uneasiness. None of that. You just came across as a podcast professional, someone that knew what it was that she wanted to talk about, that did her research, because you're no you are among the top 5 people that I know that consistently goes in and researches things. Unlike myself, I like to do a deep dive and figure out like what is going on here, what does this
Right.
mean, what is this about. So yes, I never got that shyness from you, so that's a testament to your professionalism when it comes to the podcast world.
Well,
All right.
that's definitely how I was going. But my second question to you, can you share a failure in your life and what it taught you?
Oh, that's a great, 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 great question. A failure in my life was when I was in radio. I was working a radio show. I was working morning show, and the program director wanted to make changes, and the changes that he wanted to make um involved me having to kind of taper down my time in terms of participating in the radio show and just come in and do breaks for like weather and traffic. So instead of being like engaged with my co-hosts and like talking about topics and the ability to interview different guests that were coming on the show, I was the weather and the traffic girl. And to me, it seemed like such a step back and such a failure that I was really disappointed. And so I took the disappointment, and I had a conversation with my program director, and I was like, I've written this skit, I have written this copy, I have gotten these interview questions together. Let's play back, show from last week and Monday when I did an interview with Kyla Pratt. let's, and I just kind of referred back to all the previous work that I had done and shown that just, putting me into making the weather and the traffic announcements was doing a disservice, to the show because I brought something to the table. So I literally, stood up for myself. I, pleaded my case to the program director. He listened to, my segments and things like that. And he was like, okay, Brenna, you made a solid point. He's like, I'm not really sure why I initially thought that maybe you should take a step back and just do weather and traffic. But now that I'm listening to, your segments and your interactions with the guests, your questions, your segues, the little jokes and things that you made, you are a valuable team to the morning show. And so with that being said, I was able to participate. I was able to be a part of the show. And, it was a failure to take a step down for a day or two, but I was able to get brought back into the mix. And it was because I pleaded my case and stood up for myself.
I'm sorry, honey. Look,
That's
y'all
okay.
trying to kick me out for real.
I don't know what is going on.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Okay. So, next question for you is, how do you handle difficult or sensitive topics on the podcast? How do you manage that?
I didn't do too good last week. I believe sometimes I try to practice, just being logical about things more than feeling.
Mm-hmm.
But of course, there are going to be those times where you have to put emotions into things because that's just a human in you.
Right, right.
Um, so I do practice when I'm talking about like subjects that are really touching and can be very hard. Um, I will meditate,
Right.
and that is a way of me just releasing anything that I have inside of me because I can be negative too.
Yeah.
Um, so I try to meditate and I just pray. I do pray before our lives and stuff like that, whether we're talking about something that's deep or just something that's just passive or just our normal conversations. And that gets me through.
Right.
Heavy on me, but I do, try to keep myself together um, to be able to have the conversation because, I mean, it's okay to feel. I mean, that's fine, but you're also needing to as well to have the conversation. So,
Right. Right.
and that's my therapy. I think that you actually when you're blessed to have a platform, especially like real chill conversations,
There you
that
go. You
oh,
back?
there I go.
Man, I've been playing with this thing since we started, like trying to figure out why can't I see my girl?
And you got it. Um, having a platform like real chill conversations, it really gives us the platform to express ourselves and lay it all on the table. So definitely the podcast. And that goes on to my everyday life because it's some
Mm-hmm.
things that happen in my personal life or some things that happen to my friends or people that I just know, and they come to me and they talk about it, and then I'm able to, share it, if I can, of course. But
Right.
I'm able to share it on the podcast, on the platform, just to get everybody's perspective and opinions, and we lay it out on the table.
Right.
Um, Things that I can share, of course, but I think that's therapy. That's
Yeah.
therapy for me, and I think
Yeah.
for a lot of people who do podcasts, I'm not gonna say everybody, but some of them, the podcast is therapy for them.
Yeah.
So I found this to be my safe zone. Like I can come here.
Right. 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 I agree. My next question for you would be, how do you balance podcasting with your personal and professional commitments? Because, we all got things we got going on, but we always make time for Tuesdays to do the podcast. How do you balance that?
Well, I just said this. We try our best. We have so much going on. Like you had the radio, even I think you were still doing radio when
Yep.
you started this, and you had the
Yep.
podcast,
Yep.
you had mom life, you had
Yep.
work. So you were definitely balancing a lot. And, as well as for me, I had business going on, podcast, mom of five,
Hmm.
work, you know,
Yep.
and I have some crucial hours.
Crucial hours. I mean,
Mhm.
it's like by the time you get home and get situated and make sure your kids get fed, you got to jump on this podcast and get into it.
So
So,
on Tuesdays, I know that I don't cook, okay?
yeah,
So on Tuesdays, I get my babies some KFC or
yeah,
pizza, whatever
yeah,
they want, get them together, and they'll be okay with it because they already know on Tuesdays, mommy have podcasts.
same
Some of
thing.
them, some of them will join sometimes when we have, certain topics.
Yeah.
Um, and they'll sit there and be like, "We saw you, we heard." I'd be like, "Okay, okay." But I mean, my kids are very supportive. Like
Yeah,
they
same.
like they be like, "You gotta do your podcast." Like I've
Yes.
been and forgot all about the podcast, and they'll be like, "You have podcasts on this day."
Yeah.
Or mom, you have to get ready for your podcast. So it's like they're very supportive, even when I'm just not even doing a podcast and I just do like my little TikTok videos.
Yeah.
They'll be like, "Oh, you got to do a TikTok video." So I love my kids. Like they are really my motivation. Like God
Yes.
first, but
Yes.
definitely my kids in a human form. Like they have been so supportive in everything that I do, no matter what. And I love that from them because I mean they keep me on my toes. So I like that.
I definitely can can connect with that aspect of it. My husband listens to the podcast. My kids listen to the podcast.
Yay.
They always give me feedback and they're like, "Oh, mom, that was good. That was great." I liked, and I like when they give me examples. I like when you said XYZ. I like when you said this. I like when the person said, this statement and you came back to them and said this. So it means a lot to me that they're supportive, of my endeavors. And of course, we've had conversations and, we are definitely looking to grow the podcast, looking to increase our guests that we have on. I think it would be an awesome, endeavor to be able to collaborate with another podcast. We've done that before. I think
Yes, we have.
we need to do more of that. So, yeah,
And
your
that was
turn.
very fun. That was very fun.
It
I do
was.
have a question for you though.
Yes.
If you had to reboot Real Chill Conversations from scratch, what would you keep and what would you change?
Oh, that's a good question. If I had to reboot Real Chill Conversations from scratch, I think that if I had to reboot it from scratch, off the bat, I would start with other podcasters and other collaborators, with set days and times that we were going to do live shows. I would have that lined up from the beginning as opposed to trying to line it up as we are going along. I also would love to see.
Oh,
Um,
that's a good one.
I also would love to see live podcast shows. I would love to see us at a little spot somewhere doing the podcast live, having audience interaction, having it recorded and having it filmed to be able to post, to our Real Chill
In the
Conversations
making.
page. Yep. So, yeah, those are some things that I would like to reboot if we were to start Real Chill Conversations.
And I feel like with the guest thing, I feel like it would be better as you go.
Mm-hmm.
But I can see why you would say from the start. And the only reason I would say as you go is because people cancel or,
Yeah, and
you know,
that's my
at
thing.
the
I'm
last
like
minute.
I'm like hoping like, if they're locked in and we get a commitment, then they're less likely. I'm hoping that they're less likely to cancel or to not make it because we've just had several occasions where we get somebody booked for a particular day and time and then for whatever reason like they don't make it and we don't find out until after the fact, but the show must go on and we have to still continue. I just feel like if we were to make an extend an offer for another podcast or another guest to join the show, if we have something written in writing, if we have a contract and
Oh,
things like
yes.
that, just to ensure the guarantee of their arrival, because us trying to make it go as it happens, um we've just had some difficulties and some challenges with that, and then it's like after the fact they wind up missing it, then they reach back out and they're like, oh, can I be on again? And then we're kind of like wary, like you left us hanging, but yeah, we'll give you another opportunity. We've given you another opportunity, and the same thing again, like you don't show up, you don't join us. So to me, I just think that, as a podcaster, I would never do that to anyone. If someone is asking if I would like to join their podcast and be a guest on their platform and I accept, then it's written in stone. It's written in my calendar. I'm going to show up, rain, shine, or otherwise, to participate, because I think it's an honor for someone to want to get your insight and your feedback on their platform.
Yes, it is. It really is. Um,
Next question.
how do you stay beautiful without burning out?
I'm sorry.
Yeah, because you just beautiful.
You know what? It's first of all, it's staying hydrated, lots and lots and lots of hydration. I don't know if you can hear it in my voice, but my voice is still going in and out from when I was sick several weeks ago. I've been expecting this to resolve now at any moment, according to the doctor, but it still hasn't. So when I find that I'm talking or I'm laughing or whatever, I still have this,
We need
going on
Brenna's secret, y'all.
going on in my throat. So I do drink a concoction. It is tea, it's honey, it's lemon, and it's turmeric for inflammation. Inflammation in your body can cause a lot of things. It most notably can cause irritations in your face, blotches, swelling, dark circles under the eyes, things like that. So even though I have a lot going on between my work schedule, I mean, for me, work, from the time that I start to the time that I finish, it literally flows by. Like I look up at the clock and I'm like, oh my gosh, it's already 1:30 in the afternoon. I've only got 4 more hours to go. My work day flies by, but it's a very intense job, that I
Right.
have. So I find that, when I get off work, I need to spend time with my kids. I need to, make my tea, make my concoction. I have a conversation with my husband and I'll tell him about my day and he'll tell me about his day. We have conversations. Then I just have some decompress time. I just take a few moments to myself and just do some meditation and just say, okay, today was today, tomorrow is a new day, and we will, start all over and begin from scratch because
I love that.
we're like that until the end of the day. So
And people don't know how powerful meditating is.
yep.
It's like very powerful if you really get into it. If you're just doing it, and you're not into it, then you probably not going to get anything out of it unless you get into it.
Right, right.
But that's how I was at first because I was not really into it. Like, but once I started getting into it, it made a whole lot of difference in my life. And I started seeing things a lot different. So
Yeah.
it definitely helped out.
So we've got a couple of comments, and I'm having a hard time reading because I don't have my I don't have my glasses on. But someone by the name of Finals gave us 200% emojis, and then also said that meditation helps a lot. So thank you so much for commenting and sharing that with us, Finals. We definitely appreciate it. And now, Miss Lady, it is your turn for some additional questions. First question is going to be, what has been the most rewarding aspect of podcasting for you?
That I get to talk to y'all and y'all get to hear my voice and my opinions and my perspective about
Yeah,
things.
of
And then I get
course.
to hear other people's too because I'm going to tell you this. Podcasting made a difference in my life, and because it opened, I was very close-minded.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna start with that, okay? Long time
Mm-hmm.
ago, in my 20s, I was very close-minded. It was
Right.
either one way or no way. And
Right.
yes, I can sit here and tell you all that. I'm not afraid to do that, okay?
That's
Um
gross.
I
That's
was like
gross right
I
there.
was like, "You're doing what?"
Yeah.
Oh, that is the worst thing in the world. Why you doing that?
Right.
I was that girl. I was
Right.
so close-minded, like for real. But
Yeah.
as I got older and with podcasting actually made me realize that my opinion was not always right.
Mm-hmm.
I was not always right, okay?
Right.
Um So yeah, like I start listening to other people and I enjoy that because nowadays it has helped a lot in my personal life.
That's great.
Even now that I have kids, I have other people that I enjoy going out with,
Hmm.
having meetings with, all type of things, or meeting new people. Like I like to hear their perspective on things because it just opens my mind to a whole new level of things, and to see, what other people to hear what other people have been through. Yes, it's sad sometimes because some people have been through really harsh things.
Yes,
I get to understand a little bit of why they think and act certain ways. So I love that.
that's great. So that is then a segue to my next question, which is how do you handle negative feedback or criticism with regards to things that might have been said or expressed on the podcast?
I talked to you about it.
Yeah,
I've never been closed off to feedback only because it's very important to have it, whether it's good or bad.
yeah,
And I think it actually makes us better.
yeah,
Um, so there's some things we receive bad criticism on the podcast, and I've talked about it with you.
yeah.
Um, I know we take both with open arms. I do.
Yeah, I
I
think
know
I
I do
I
because
think I think we do that. And when we have our conversations and we discuss what the issue is and what the scenario is, I think it then allows us to further be open-minded and take into consideration the perspective that this person is coming from, and allows us to view their perspective, and see exactly where they're coming from, and where a comment or statement or suggestion that we might have made could have potentially, rubbed the wrong way. And I think that that's important, that we are open-minded enough and not closed-minded enough to think that, our thoughts and our way is the only way. So I'm proud of us both for taking that perspective. Absolutely.
absolutely.
Next question.
Next, this is fun. I love this. You still here?
Yep, I'm here.
Okay. I was about to say, oh, I got knocked out again. Okay, so it's my turn.
Yep.
I'm sorry, I thought it was your turn.
Okay.
I'm sitting here waiting on you. Okay, it's my turn, y'all. So, if you had a personal assistant that could do one silly thing perfectly, what would it be?
A personal assistant that could do one silly thing. Um, I'd probably ask them to run to Starbucks and get me my favorite
I
drink
was just about to say that.
to sip on, so that I'm well hydrated during the podcast, since my voice tends to go in and out. I would ask for my favorite Starbucks drink from my personal assistant. Please bring me my drink.
And
Mhm.
one more simple one and funny. Pineapple on pizza, yes or no?
No.
Why?
I've had pineapple on pizza. I've done the Hawaiian pizza, but the last time that I had pineapple on pizza, I don't know what was wrong. I don't know if the pizza was wrong or the pineapple was wrong, but it made me very, very, very ill and I could not stop
Oh no.
vomiting. So from there, it just kind of made that negative association, but up until that time, I was pizza on pineapple the entire way, all the way. You could not get me. People would be like, ew, that's nasty. I'm like, no, it's delicious. But it made me sick, I've been kind of hesitant and kind of scared to try it again because sometimes them vomits be rather violent and it feels like your whole trachea is coming out and I just did not want to experience that again.
Well,
So
that
I
makes
was
sense.
so I was like, let me just leave it alone. But overall, aside from that experience, I think pineapple on pizza is delicious. I'm just scared, y'all, because I don't know what it was that made me sick, but I had the
It
most
was probably just that one pizza they didn't make right.
yeah, it was that whole vomit situation where I felt my trachea coming out of my throat that made me say, let me press the pause button on this. um, okay, question for you. And I think we might have already talked about this a little bit previously, but I want to know. How do you ensure that the content that you bring to the podcast is relevant and is up to date and in line with the times that we're in right now? How do you do that?
Um, I really don't. I feel like maybe sometimes that happens, but it just happens, you know? It may be because someone has talked to me about a specific topic
Yes.
and I'll be like, "Hey, that's a good idea. That's a good topic."
Right.
Um I like topics that are broad. And what I mean by that is, we can dissect it more. It's not
Right.
just a yes or no, or you know what I'm saying? I like for us to have a real lengthy conversation about it
Yeah.
because it's
Yeah.
is that's why I try to make content when it comes to our topics where we can like touch different things. Only because I'm aware that even my circle, like everybody does not think the same. Everybody came from a different background.
Yeah.
Like I know people um, that was raised this way, but I also know other people that were raised this way. So I
Right.
know it's not going to be the same for all of us.
Gotcha.
So when I bring the topics, I like for us to hit different um how can I put it? What is the word that I'm looking for? I like to just make it broad so people understand and be able to relate because everything is not going to be like I was raised, or everything is not going to be like you were raised. You get what I'm
Right.
saying? So
Yeah.
I always try to bring those people that have been through some stuff and they have talked to me about it,
Yep.
and then we can open the platform to them because it's sometimes, and really most of the time, are those topics that really go unspoken.
Right.
and people are really afraid to come out, and some people are really afraid to come out and talk about it, only because sometimes we're called, oh, you're crazy.
Right.
Oh, what, like, what are you thinking? Like, you know, oh,
Hmm.
you did that to yourself. You
Right.
know, I don't like to hear those things,
Yeah.
even though it's okay for us to take accountability for certain things that goes on in our lives. But when we were little, we didn't have too much control of that.
True. Very,
So
very true.
don't say too much of be accountable. Yes, I'm going to be accountable for the things that I do as a grown up, but I like for people to come on the podcast and talk about how it used to be when they were little, because we need to hear these things. You
Yes.
know, it's a lot of people out here that struggled, you know what I'm saying?
Hmm.
Without a mother, without a dad, or didn't have people, or did have a mom or did have a dad, but they were never present in their lives.
Right.
And you know, when it's just a lot, but all of those topics are real life situations, you
Absolutely.
know. So I don't stay up to date with the topics unless it's something about Cardi B or
Right.
Nicki Minaj right now,
Right.
you know,
Right.
that we decide to talk about. But when it comes to real life conversations and real life topics, those topics is not up to date topics. These are topics that come from real people and real people life and what they went through.
So, with that being said, my next question for you is, can you share a memorable podcast episode that really just kind of sticks out in your mind as being, one of your top episodes that you've had on the podcast
I'm
during
gonna
your
pick
podcast journey?
I'm gonna pick a fun one.
Okay.
I really would like to redo this the sex. What was the name of that one?
Oh
Sex
my,
toys?
yeah, sex toys.
Let's go back to that one. We have to redo that one.
We gotta revisit that one.
Yes.
Okay.
Cause I
So
had a
we
lot of more questions.
so
But
we
y'all
gotta
cut me off, honey.
we gotta do that one before the end of October since we're gonna be going on hiatus. So we have to put that on the schedule and revisit that.
Yeah, take
Um,
me
I
back to that one.
I have some additional information and insight to add to that topic as well, because I've been doing my research and asking questions, honey. So I got more to contribute to that episode, and I think it'll definitely be enlightening. It'll be fun, and I think you guys will take some more from it in terms of education. We'll have a little bit of laughs in between, but I think that definitely is a memorable podcast episode, and
Yes, it was, honey.
it does another
It was too hot.
another take. We need to do another take on that. All right. Well, we will start to wrap it up. You can go ahead and you can ask me your last two questions.
Okay. Well, since I only get last two questions.
I mean, you
Um,
could do more. I mean, I got time if you got time.
okay, cool. I think I had like six more left.
Okay.
Okay, let me ask you this one. Um, since you travel a lot, okay,
Mm-hmm.
what's your worst travel mishap that somehow became a funny story?
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. We were set to fly to Miami, right? So, they called boarding and we boarded the flight. And then, we get situated in our seats and, windows up, windows down, whatever, adjust the air and all that, whatever, whatever. And then it was like 30 minutes. And then that 30 minutes turned into 45 minutes. And then all of a sudden, the captain made an announcement and said that we were going to be stuck on the tarmac, that there was an issue.
What?
There was an issue with, that the gate thing that they attach to the
Mm-hmm.
plane for you to
Yes.
leave the terminal to get onto the plane, that was broken and they
Oh,
didn't have one available for us to get on, so we had no choice but to sit on the plane. We sat on the plane for 4.5 hours. Nobody could get off. Nobody could leave because there was nowhere to leave.
oh no.
People were using the bathroom. The plane was starting to smell. It was an absolute nightmare. And then they finally got one of those things to wheel us back to the terminal. We get back into the terminal and we're in the waiting area, and we're told we're gonna board like within an hour. Well, literally in 5 minutes, they made the announcement saying, "Okay, we're okay to reboard," and we were all like, "What?" Because people had like run to the bathroom, they'd ran to get a drink, they ran to
Oh
get something to
no.
eat, they ran to get some food or whatever. So those of us that were there, we were able to reboard the plane. But those that weren't, they just kept making announcements. If you're a passenger on flight, I'm going to say 4152, please head back to board the flight. And so finally everybody gets on the flight. The captain makes an announcement and he was like, "Sorry about the delay, folks. I'm going to make the time up in the air. We're going to be flying at such and such miles per hour. Our stewardess are going to have the cocktails and the drinks flowing, on us." So everybody on the flight got drunk to make up for
Oh
being
my.
being stuck on the tarmac. So we're all like, when the plane lands, we're all trying
Not
to get
drunk,
our
flying in the air.
we're trying to get our luggage, out of the compartment so we can leave the plane. But everybody was drunk and like falling over, and there was this massive pile up in the hall in the airway between the seats of people that had fallen over. Suitcases were hitting people in the head. I mean, it was just the wildest thing. And had I not been there to experience it, I don't think I would have believed that it had actually happened to anybody, but it actually did. So,
Oh
yes,
no. That was
yeah,
funny.
it was funny. And
Okay.
I was quite tipsy. I took full advantage of
I
all the
said not
drinks.
flying in the air drunk. Come
Yeah,
on.
flying in the air drunk. Everybody was tipsy except for the pilot.
This is my next question.
Okay.
If you could teleport to any city, to one city right now, where would you land? And what snack will you eat first?
I'm going to teleport to Italy, and the first thing that I'm gonna
Gotta
have,
be a city.
oh, a city.
Yeah.
Gosh, I can't think of a city in Italy.
It's a city in the US, honey.
A city in the US.
Yes.
Okay. All right. I'm gonna travel
Virginia.
to, no, not Virginia. Mm-mm. I'm gonna travel to Chicago and I'm gonna have a Chicago hot dog.
Chicago, Illinois.
Chicago, Illinois, and I'm gonna have a Chicago hot dog with no ketchup, mustard, relish, peppers
You
only.
ever had one of those?
Yes,
They're good.
they are so good.
It sounded good when you just said it.
It's so good. So, so
I
good.
need to try one then.
Yes, we need to go make a quick trip to Chicago. Any podcasters out in Chicago that want to have us out for a guest, we'll just grab our hot dogs when we land and we'll meet y'all at the studio.
Okay.
All right, is it my go or are you still
Yes,
going?
it's your go.
It's my go. Okay. If there is one guest that you are most excited about potentially having on the podcast, who is that guest and why?
Mhm. I want to have all the guests back.
You can only pick one.
I do. I really do because I feel like, all of them gave some gems. So I
Yes.
I would want all of them to come back
Okay.
actually. It's
Okay.
cool. It's like everybody has some really good insights and perspectives about different topics,
Mm-hmm.
and a lot of them, had new businesses that were actually working on and
Yep.
had going on. So we want to like retouch that subject. How is it going?
Right.
You know, um, yeah, I would like all of them back.
Okay. All right. My next question to you is if we happen to have a sex therapist on the podcast and she had several techniques that she wanted to demonstrate, would you volunteer for the demonstration?
What does sex therapy consist of, first of all?
Sex therapy is a person that works with people
And
and
one scenario that I would volunteer for.
works with people and or couples to help them enhance their therapies. One of the things that sex therapists do is also, talk about the introduction of toys. So if she had a new brand to market toy that she wanted to demonstrate and she needed a volunteer, would you volunteer for the podcast? For the greater
Um,
good of the podcast.
with me being crazy is another part of me. I probably would.
That's funny. I didn't expect anything less. I expected that answer from you. All right, I'm going to ask you another question. So this is three out of the six left that we have. Um, How has being a part of a podcast had any significant impact, if any, to your dating relationship or your significant other? Are they supportive of it? Is there a hint of jealousy? Do they think that you're getting excessive male attention by being on a platform? How do they handle it? And then how do you handle it with your explanation of them to them as to, the purpose of your podcast is not to attract men and others, but it's to bring awareness to different topics and subjects.
I'm going to say this. I was a little silent because actually I'm so like shocked right now you asked this question, but um I had someone I was speaking to actually, and it wasn't a partner or anything like that. It was just a random person. I'm
Mm-hmm.
just gonna say that. And I was like, I would love to bring this male guest on and stuff like that. And he was like, "Oh, he just likes you. So that's why he'll come on there." And I was like, "What?" I was like, no. I said, I usually get people to come on here and they
Mm-hmm.
want to come on here, and it's not a like thing or anything like that. It's so they can get on a platform to be able to speak on different topics.
Right.
But I'm just mentioning this because I started laughing and I was like, no way. Like, that is not the purpose. And
Right.
anybody that I have dated or anyone that I've been with, they clearly know, you
Yeah.
know. So I haven't had any issues first,
Good.
and on that part. I don't I mean, and I wouldn't. Ooh. I mean, it would probably I've probably had like, you know, the podcast, you're on it, men are looking at you.
Yeah.
Like once or twice, but
Yeah.
I mean, once I explain to people and if they come on here and actually listen to our podcast and be a part of it, they will see.
Right.
It's never nothing like that. And we just sit here and talk and have a good conversation. It's real
Right.
chill conversation. So that's what we do.
That's it.
Um, so it's I guess I don't know where, and this person who told me this, I don't know where the misconception came from.
Yeah.
Um, but my looks does not have anything to do with the podcast at
Girl,
all.
no. Girl,
Um,
no. Not at all.
so I mean, I don't understand. I didn't really understand that comment, but I take it. You know, th- I take the comment, but it's not like that. So every person that we have on here have respected us, and we
Yes.
have respected them.
Yes.
So it's never been like that.
It's never been like that. And I think, like, regardless of our looks and regardless of any guests that we may bring on, there is no, crossing any lines, crossing any boundaries. There is no disrespect. I mean, we might crack jokes, but it's all in fun. But it's nothing that's disrespectful or crossing the line or anything that would cause, me to feel offended or to feel any type of way. I think that everyone that we've had on the podcast has understood and respected that this is a podcast platform. We're not playing the dating game. So, with that being said, I've not had any issues with any significant others. Well, there's not any others, just the one, just my husband, who's ever had an issue with guests that we've had on the show. And he usually listens to, all of the episodes because he likes to hear, what I have to say, what everybody else has to say, and the feedback and all of that. And then we'll talk about it. So, yeah, I think it's fine. I think it's fine.
And I do have this question.
Yes, ma'am.
This is a good one
All
because you know
right.
what? I thought about this today. I said we should have one. If our show had a mascot, what would it be and how would it look?
That is a good one. That is a good one.
And you know what I was thinking of?
What?
A chill penguin
A chill penguin?
with big glasses
So for me,
and a wine
um,
glass.
I envision, this is what I envision. I envision a microphone with a smiley face, with a glass of wine and just smiling. Actually, that's what I see.
and laid back.
Laid back. That's what I see. Is that chilling ass microphone with a glass of wine, laying back with a smile on the face, just listening and watching. That's what I see as the mascot. But yeah, I like the penguin idea too. Maybe the penguin and the microphone can chill together and they can interview each other at some point.
Oh, I
Uh,
was thinking about that one today and I was like, wow, we need a mascot
yes, we
for real
do.
church
We do.
conversation.
We definitely need a logo. That would come into play. That would come in handy. Do you
One
have
thing your past self would be shocked you're doing now, and why?
Um, I think my past self would be shocked that I am so open to have conversations in regards to sex and in regards to relationships. Past me used to think that, sex was just kind of like a private thing between two people and you didn't really talk about it, you didn't discuss it. People's relationships were their business, you didn't have any place in it. But since I started doing podcasts years ago, starting in radio, I started to find that, really nothing is off limits. And as adults, we should be able to have conversations about any and everything, whether it's relationships, whether it's sex, whether it's things to do with politics, whether it's things that are going on in the world. Our platform is such that we can talk about anything. And, until we reach the point where, if we reach the point where there's censorship that comes into play with what we talk about, I hope we never encounter that. But as long as we have the freedom of speech and are able to keep going, then
I
I
think we
think
can do it respectfully.
yeah, I think no topic is off limits. And what I was shocked by in the past, I have learned through doing podcasts over the years to not be shocked. There's really not a whole lot that's gonna shock me at this point, because a lot of it I've read about, I've seen, I've been exposed to by 3 degrees of separation. So I think I'm okay. I think I'm
And then
okay.
I have this one last question.
Yes, ma'am.
Things we learn now that we wish we learned earlier.
I wish, this is kind of piggybacking on the last question, but I wish that we learned the power of our voices. I wish we learned that sooner. I wish that we started the podcast sooner. And I wish that, our podcast had grown legs much sooner. Um, because I think that we have a lot of things to say and a lot of things to share. And more people need to hear it, and more people need to know that if they want to participate, then they have the ability to participate. Just reach out to us. Comment on the Real Chill Conversations Facebook group. Comment on the Real Chill Conversations Instagram page. Send us a message. Let us know, if there's something that you want to discuss, if there's something that you want us to bring to the table and hear our perspective on it. So that's where I am with that, for sure.
Absolutely. And that's it for me, honey. So,
Okay, I have one last question for you. Is there a podcast episode that you wish maybe went a little bit better, or went differently because maybe the guest wasn't too open in their sharing of information, and having to ask them questions might have felt like I don't know, like an invasion or that they didn't really want to answer. Do you have any experience with that or any podcast episode that you can think of that went that route?
I can say that um some podcast episodes could have been more open,
Mm-hmm.
but I do feel like, people, especially, sometimes, and I get it because, like I said, when I first started to be on others podcast shows, um, I was the same way.
Mm-hmm.
I like I said, I was very shy and I would never speak out loud, like in school and stuff like that.
Right.
I was never the one who grabbed the microphone.
Right.
Okay. So I was always in the back and I was always low key. I never really wanted to be seen.
Right.
So, I get it. Like sometimes we get frightened or we're trying to make sure that we're saying not I wouldn't say the right things. I would say more like we're trying to make sure that we're saying something that we won't get striked for.
Right. Right.
um and that's understandable, and it's also understandable like when we bring people onto the show and they haven't been on a podcast.
Right.
So it's kind of like, you know, I had some people that'll be like, "Oh, you want me to be on your podcast?" Like, like they never done it before. So, but I'll be
Right.
like, well, you do really good and you do so well at speaking to others that,
Mm-hmm.
I feel like you can do this, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
And I get them to come on and really express themselves. But I guess that at some point, a lot of us hold on to certain things where we could just let it all go and it'll make more sense.
True.
And sometimes
True.
I have an issue with that as well. Like on my last episode, um, I wanted to be more open about what I was feeling with my emotions at that time. But
Yeah.
because I know that there is certain guidelines that we have to go by on YouTube,
Yeah.
I really couldn't express myself how I wanted to.
Yeah.
Um, but I did, and I did the best I could. So that's all I had to give.
Yeah.
But I do feel like in some people have held back certain things, and their reasons they have. I don't know their reasons, but I really do feel like my advice would be, as long as you're being respectful, don't hold back.
True. That's great
Because you
advice.
can make a lot more sense,
Yeah.
if you let it all out. And like I said, I did the same thing last week. So
Yeah.
I know what I do because I be like, Dominique, I be like, Brenna. And I'll go back and I'll rewatch my the episode again and I'll just be like, girl,
Yep.
what was
Same.
this?
Same.
But
Same.
now I'd be like, Brenna, I could have expressed myself better. In certain words I crash out on.
I mean,
My
I mean,
vocabulary has
it's
become so much better, honey, because
it, yes, I mean, but it's totally fine because you're being your authentic self, and to be your authentic self is to respond in the way that you respond. I mean, yeah, it's great you're expanding your vocabulary. I have this app on my phone that teaches me three new words, every day, and has me put them in sentences and use them in context and all of that. And it's not only important, for my job and being able to communicate, with my clients, but it's also very beneficial in just communication all around. And podcasting, is definitely a form of communication, and we are doing our very best to communicate to the best of our abilities, different situations, different scenarios, to offer insight and input and all of that. We're continuing to learn, we're continuing to grow, and we're doing our best. And when we go back and we rewatch and re-listen to episodes, those things that I'm like, oh, I could have said that better, or I could have answered that better, or I could have done that better. But that's all part of growth. So I have to say that everyone that has been listening to us and following our podcast, we definitely appreciate you and appreciate your continued support. We're only going to continue to get better, continue to grow, and that of course is with your support, and we appreciate it. This episode, I really just wanted to kind of dig a little bit deeper into Brenna and Dominique, ask some questions that maybe you guys were wondering, like, well, what are they about? And what do they think? And what are this and what are that? Just to kind of give you an overall idea and a picture of, who we are and where we come from and why we say and do the things that we do. So thank you, Dominique,
And
for
this was a good one.
to
And Brenda, I don't like big words. I be
yeah.
trying to give it to people raw, but sometimes raw don't come out right.
Right?
And raw will get us knocked off the internet. Period.
Exactly.
So I
Get
have
it
to watch my words sometimes, y'all. It don't be that I don't like it's not that I don't know what I'm talking about. It's just
right.
like I'm trying to, use other words
eh,
because this censorship on
Right. And
YouTube
stay
is crazy. And we can't like we can curse, but you can't do it all the time.
right. And
Or I'm
it's
not saying that I'm gonna curse with everything, but it's just certain things that come with emotions, and when you really want to talk about it, that's what comes out.
right. And
But
just, digging into the guidelines and following, censorship. We don't want to do anything that's going to get us knocked off the air, but if we can explain it a little more eloquently and using words that the majority of people can, relate to, or give a definition of a word and saying, I'm going to say
'cause y'all
this,
know me.
what this means is, da 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 da, doing that. So I'm glad we were able to do this episode tonight to give you guys just a little bit of an insight as to
I
your
love this.
podcast hosts and kind of what we're about, what we stand behind. If this inspires you to reach out because you'd like to be a guest or a part of the show, again, please contact us via the Facebook group, Real Chill Conversations, or message us on Instagram, Real Chill Conversations. We'd love to have you on. We are looking to definitely add to our roster of guests. And to my co host, I can't say enough about you. I thank you so much for being
Thank
on this
you.
journey and us being on this journey together. I feel like we have learned a lot. I feel like we've grown a lot since our first
Yes.
episode up until now, and have a better understanding of, how to communicate with the folks and to get them to respond. So thank you
I
guys
really
so
you're gonna be in charge of the Q&A because you did it last time, you killed it again this time, and I'm sure we're gonna have another one.
we will definitely have another
Keep
one.
getting to know us
We
because
will
we're
we will
learning and growing as we go.
we will keep the Q&A in rotation for sure. So we'll do another one and not too in a not too far off future. So stay tuned for that. But again, thank you everybody. We wish you a good night. Thanks for watching. Thanks for tuning in. Dominique, I will speak to you later, and we will collaborate, and you will let me know and let everyone else know what our topic is going to be for next week, of course.
Yes. All right, y'all. Peace out.
All right. Bye, guys.